Okay, let's get fleshing out the skeleton. So we're going to start with our medium blue, or cerulean blue, slightly darker shade. We are going to have two 10-penny size domed blobs in the top left hand pizza slice, this extended drawn out pizza slice, and then we're going to put a small blob in each of our trees to mark them out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, blobs getting bigger, 7 and a half. Then we have this big tree here on this riverbank, so we'll have two blobs, small blobs about the size of a 5p piece, and a little bit more in there. Okay, and the riverbanks, we'll have a blob center left and a blob center right, again about the size of a 10p piece, domed with paint. These are our reservoirs and we're going to be pinching from them. Okay, and then we're going to switch to the lighter of the two ceruleans, and again we're going to have a nice, a very large blob in the top left hand corner. Okay, and on the very right hand edge we'll have another blob there, and the bottom left hand corner a blob, and the bottom right hand corner a blob. Okay, so with the medium blue, two blobs top, 10-penny size, we follow the trees, one blob for each tree. The blob's getting bigger as we move to the right. Double blob in this tree on the riverbank, single blob here on the first tree, and we've got a blob in each of the riverbanks with reflection, riverbank with reflection, and a blob in the left and right bottom corners. Okay, now switch to white, ouch, and we are going to have a blob in the top left hand corner, 10-penny domed size, and then we're going to have two blobs, 1, 2, both 10-penny size. This is to incorporate the cloud that happens behind the tree canopy. And then we're going to start mixing those in. So we'll take a piece of our kitchen roll, we're going to screw it up lightly, nice loose ball, so we end up with lots of triangles and facets. Now I'm going to start working in the sky with the darker blue, so taking from that reservoir, I'm going to be working, potato printing my way right into the edge of the trees, and then same on the left hand side, bringing it right down to the trees. Now, also going to start working in the trees. Looking at the original, tree 1, tree 2, with the bottom part, tree 3, tree 4, and then obviously we have this tree here on this bank, not part of the upper canopy, tree 5, tree 6, tree 7, and then that last, just half under canopy. Okay, so we built in our sweep, dealt with those two trees. Now the riverbanks, again, I'm just going to pat my way along the original line. And just spreading out the paint to fill that section. Down here we have reflections. At the top we have the lines of the bushes. Same on the left hand side. Follow the original line. Pad, pad, pad. Top and bottom. And then in the bottom of this triangle shape, try to bring in any surplus, that medium blue. Again, pinch, filling in those areas of canopy reflection. Bottom corners. Panel 1, panel 2, blue, bottom left hand corner. Got some sky reflection here. Okay, and panel number 1, so to the right and to the left, panel number 2 of the first tree. Just going to pad that in with that slightly lighter cerulean. 1, 2. Not going to lose my tree, I know where it is, more or less, that's all I need to do. Some lighter blue down there. Okay, now with our stained tissue, we can start to build the clouds. We've still got a reservoir of light blue here, so we can always dip back into that. What I'm going to do is build the cloud on the other side of the tree and the top left hand corner. This is actually got some apple green, a very, very pale apple green in this top left hand corner. But let's start just padding. Filling that top left hand corner with that kind of complicated jigsaw piece. Okay, now while I've got the white on my tissue, I've got a cloud here. So I can fill in this section. Pinch a bit of white, cloud in, pinch a bit of white. Just here we have the reflection from the canopy, here we have that triangular shape reflecting the bushy tree. Just going to fill that one in between those two spaces. Okay, and again I'm going to pinch from my reservoir. Now I'm going to be working panel number 2 at the bottom and then all the way to the top. Just working up and down these panels in between the tree trunks, because the sky being the furthest thing away, we want to paint that in first and then everything else will lay on top of the sky. I'm just going to give my tissue a twist because it's getting a bit wet and I'm losing my facets and triangles. So again, a little tiny bit of blue. You can always pick up a little bit of extra blue if I want it. Test this first, pinch from the white, work over the panels. Pinch the white, done. Too much about the tree trunks. So we'll lay those back on top. Space in between. So we are going to need some extra white. So I'm just going to twist the tissue to one side and the right. So what I want is an extra reservoir of white. So I'm going to put 2 more blobs in here. Size, reasonably healthy. Tissue. Now, pick up from the right reservoir, and then I'm going to rework the areas I've highlighted. So beneath the canopy, left hand side, above the brush, we've got a patch, which again, between the 2 trees on this side of the river. White patch. Okay, we can cross into these areas because again, this is the sky, it's the furthest thing away. Everything else is going to go on top. Pinch from the reservoir underneath the canopy now. Pinch. Just working our way. So this is distant cloud. Our tree trunks are just beginning to disappear, but we can follow them up from other areas. Working right up into that canopy, so we don't have to repaint later. So panel number 1 is basically pale blue. Panel number 2 is basically pale blue, except down here at the bottom we have some discoloration there. So it's lighter down here. Panel number 3, 1, 2, 3, is mostly white. So again, I'm just going to dab my way, pinch, dab my way up that gap. Same again, panel number 4, pinch. Same again, panel number 5. These are lighter areas. Okay, so I've brought the cloud right up into the canopy. Now I'm going to do the same from the top, using the liquidity I've got left. So I'm just going to try to replicate that bouncing ball. Padding with my white. Remember, tree 1 round top, tree 2 round top, into the point. Okay, so we have built our sky. So the clouds basically begin here just above the tree line, work themselves up into a much bigger cumulus effect. We will be able to put that on with our oil pastels later. So I've still got a bit of liquidity in my distant cloud areas. So I'm just going to make sure that I have filled the space. Pinch it from the top. Now, this area is all shadow and reflection as we come into the gap between this is tree 15 and 14, into the water. Work those panels. It's just going to make our water more interesting. Some very, very pale areas. Okay. Right, again, we're going to need a little bit more white. Okay, all right. So let's have another healthy healthy splodge, the sky, 1 and 2. It's quite a hot day today, so the paint is drying quite quickly. We'll see how much extra liquidity we've got. Okay, so I'm using the same blue stained tissue. Again, I'm going to try and build these cloud shapes, starting here, working my way around that looping line of M shapes. Then, with my excess paint, I'm just going to pad my way through the water, pinch from the top, pad my way up these panels, okay. Now, because it's water and should appear flat, we're just going to drag paint sideways, just to remind ourselves this is where our water is. Pinch a bit of blue. There we go. Okay. Now, I've got some liquidity in here, so I'm going to pinch from those. Now I'm going to reshape my trees into those balls. Tree number 1, tree number 2, tree number 3, tree number 4, tree number 5, tree number 6, tree number 7, and there's that half. Let's get rid of any white paper there. And we got the opposite on the way back. So pinching any liquidity, just making sure I've filled that canopy. Okay. And any excess we can just put into that reflective shadow down there, below that triangle of the riverbank. Okay. So that is our basic underpainting. We've got the sky area here with cloud. We've got the sweep of the foliage on the other side of the bank of the river. We can still see our tree trunks and their spacings. We've got 2 river banks and reflections, and we've got the canopy reflections here in the water, and we've got all of these tree trunks. So it's still a little bit wet in places. So I'm going to actually increase the intensity of that canopy and start to mark in just the very bottoms of the trees in the foreground. The further we go into the painting, the further away the trees become, where it actually they get paler and paler and paler, and it switches from a bluey purple to a very pale burnt sienna yellow ochre. Okay, so the canopy requires some dots of blue. So remember, we've got 1, 2, tree beneath, 3. Now this tree is stronger. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, because it's closer to us. Tree number 4 will get 1. Number 5 will get 1. Number 6 will get 1, 2, 3. Tree number 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that half tree that disappears off there. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And a final 1, 2. Okay. So we're going to stick with our original tissue, which is stained with blue and white. And we're now going to pad in that that dark blue. We're going to pinch some of the dark blue and spread it around the painting as well. So our very first tree, a nice broken pattern, padding into the center, because the trees are actually paler at the top, darker in the middle. That's tree 1, 2, 3. Tiny bit on that distant one. Now we've got this bigger tree in the foreground, so we'll make him darker to make sure he stands out and comes forward, increasing the sense and illusion of depth. So build him a little darker. Trees behind. Tree number 4, tree number 5. So we're moving the dark blue into the bottom area of the foliage. And then a nice broken pattern inside the foliage. So we're just padding those dots out. Fill in our canopy. There we go. Just pinch a bit of that blue to put into the bottom of our triangle. So now other areas for the dark blue, the riverbank. We're going to have 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3 small dots. Same on this side. 1, 2, 3, 4, and a matching 1, 2, 3, 4. Bottom of the triangle. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1. And then we've got these reflections here, so we'll have 1, 2, 1, 2. And just one in the bottom right hand corner. Right, let's get those padded in while they're still wet. Same tissue. Start with the riverbank. Pad it away. Just bringing that riverbank forward. Just working up to my construction lines. And then same in the reflection. And now on the other side. Padding them into shape, that we've actually got rounded tops, but they are highlighted with very, very pale ochre and pinks. But underneath the curves we have shadow. And then we have that reflected in the water, so these blobs here are in the reflection. So instead of padding, I'm just going to drag them across the construction line at the bottom. Back reflection. And the same in the bottom right hand corner. Dragging the paint left and right, nice and flat. And we will do the same in our triangle here. Triangle shape, so it's just the apex point that comes off the page, or very close to the bottom of the page, and then we've got those two areas of reflection. So again, we're just going to be dragging the paint nice and flat within those areas. Okay, now the tree trunks. None of them are particularly dark on this side of the river, but we can mark in the bottoms of them using our dark blue, and actually in reflection they are much darker. So first tree, squeeze very lightly, and then we're just going to draw in. Start at the top, squeeze very lightly. Squeeze and drag, following my original construction line. Very, very light squeeze. And I get a nice broken line. We will have plenty of opportunities to rectify any splodges or spillage. So I'm following that one down, and here it comes in reflection at the bottom of the page. It's closer to us, so it's a bit darker and a little bit thicker. So again, squeeze and drag off the page. Okay, that's tree number 1. Tree number 2, exactly the same thing. So I'm just guessing more or less where it is. Squeeze and drag. So we're just using the paint from the tube, lightly squeezing, following our construction lines, and we're dragging that paint, making sure that our tree remains as thin as we can manage. Okay, and the chunk, we bring it right down to the riverbank, and then the reflection pops out down here. Okay, I'm actually going to turn the pages up. Get paint all over my hands, and that is bound to affect the picture. So 2 seconds, and we'll get this switched around. Okay, this should be a little bit easier. So we're now going to be drawing these horizontal tree trunks. So again, starting at the top, very, very light squeeze, dragging the paint down my construction line. Don't want to go wider than the tube ending. So again, just following down to the river bank, squeezing and dragging my way, and then I'm into the reflections at the bottom. 3. Don't need to be too careful, as long as we keep them quite thin. It's simply a marker for us to draw into. If you look at the original, Monet's trees are incredibly energetic, and they are refined by using the sky in between the panels to shape the trunks. Here we are on tree 5, and its corresponding reflection. Okay, now as we get further along, the trees begin to get thinner and thinner, so we will be able to shape them when we start to fill in those panels. Especially when we get to these two that are quite close together. Almost there. Here we are at the central point. This tree is way back in the distance. Put too much on there. tree that kind of forks. Just using the paint, the edge of the tube. Reflection, and we've got our last two trees. We're just going to give them a bottom and a top. And corresponding reflections.